All right, welcome to the Nathaneal Podcast. Today, I'm excited to welcome Brian Town, author of the book, The Lonely CEO. Brian is also the founder of Michigan Creative, a seven-figure branding and marketing agency that has helped businesses scale and build a reputation for fostering a vibrant community culture. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, thank you, Nathaniel. I'm so glad to be here finally. We've known each other for a little bit here on and off through Twitter, and now I know I was booked one time, but then I think you were moving. So
Yeah. I'm still actually, I haven't fully moved yet, but now I have time. The background is different now, so the people watching this would notice. But yeah, I'm glad that we finally got to connect because I think we met like 6 months ago, 7 months ago, something like that.
Yep.
When I started. I'm really glad because I saw that you launched a book recently, and I was very keen to like talk about it. I'm also like starting up my hustle, and I found it like a great opportunity to learn from you.
Yeah, great. No, I'd love to talk about that. So I've got the agency and the book, and then I'm just launched a brand new course that I'm going to bring out next week too. So yeah, I'm super impressed by you, and just I love this sort of X culture where you got people from all over the world that are doing great things. I mean, you said you've got clients in the U.S. and
Yeah.
I think you're what, 22, 23?
Yeah, I'm 22.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. So I'm a former teacher too, and so I love seeing young people kind of doing their thing, and it's just it's just a cool world that we live in now. Because back when I was your age, we couldn't have started even 10 years ago. We couldn't have done something like you're doing. It just wasn't available.
Yeah, that's actually something I want to talk about because I researched a little bit and I saw that you were an educator first, like you're a teacher, and then you shifted to entrepreneurship, like
Yep.
agency. I'm curious, like what prompted you to make that shift?
Yeah, that's a good question. That was 14 years ago. And I think at the time the grass is always greener, right? We're always looking at what's next and the opportunity. I love teaching. It was a great career. I taught video production and film, and it was a lot of fun, but I was getting close to 40 and I thought, man, I want to do something else. I just want to do something different, and decided to resign on a Friday and start on a Monday in a small incubator space. And that's how Michigan Creative was born. And that was August 2011.
2011, so that's like, yeah, 14 years ago.
Yeah. So you were like 8.
Right. Oh man. How was that? How was the agency space during that time? Like
Yeah,
2010s?
it was different. I mean, we were still doing we were still building websites. Social media was around, but relatively small. Most of the main ones are around then. Websites were building, doing a ton of video, but it was just myself. So the agency space was, some of the same players are around, but it wasn't like today. It wasn't, AI wasn't a thing. But, really a whole lot hasn't changed, I guess. I mean, the landscape's a little bit different. But I also think that, you know, the ability for agencies to help companies tell their story and
Mm.
help get new clients. I mean, that's never really changed. It's just a matter of how we're doing it now.
Right. And what was your primary way of getting clients back then?
Man, scratching and clawing just about everything that we can.
Right.
I think the main way was my connections that I had at the time. We were
Mm.
in a community space, so it was a shared space. So there was lots of entrepreneurships, lots of entrepreneurs around. We were right across the street from a large university, Michigan State
Mm.
University. So I had some connections there. So really getting the word out that we existed. And our start really was in video. We people knew me, that I knew video production, because that's what I used to teach. And so from there, it was just, getting the word out, tons of in-person networking,
Mm.
and then social media. And that was really about it.
So you were doing video like YouTube or?
I mean, it would end up on YouTube. So like we were, shooting videos for clients. And so we
Right.
would shoot videos, and then people knew that's what we were doing.
Okay. So video ads, something like that. Commercials?
Yeah, sort of. That's not how we were getting clients, but we were producing videos for customers. So a lot of the videos that we produce right now are not necessarily for commercials. They're more brand videos.
Right.
And so clients use those to market for themselves. So for us, that's what we were shooting a bunch of, as much as we possibly could, just to get our name out there.
Right. Gotcha. I'm curious, like how was that transition for you? Since like it's quite different when you're just teaching, and then now you're doing the actual thing and like being a practitioner. Like how was that transition for you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember sitting there. I remember sitting there at first. It was super cool. I was like, "Oh man, I've got my new office and I'm starting a business." And then about a month later, I was like, "Oh shit, what did I do?" Like I just quit a paying job to. I have no idea how to run a business. And a lot of skills though that I got from teaching for so long really translated well into business. I mean, leadership for one, working with other people to do something great. I was supposed to. My job as a teacher was to teach and inspire students to do great things. And so I kind of took that towards my new staff that we were slowly starting to hire. So those type of skills definitely transferred over. But what I didn't really know is how to really run a business and then how to continue to get sales in the door. And that was the thing that when, the first couple months we were new and people were like, yeah, let's do something. And then, after a while it was just, we were just an agency, and then I had to get sales. I didn't think about that. It's like you have to do sales, not just marketing and digital and videos and all that stuff, but you have to consistently do sales if you're the owner of the company. And so that was hard. I had to learn sales. I didn't know anything about sales. And then I think the other piece too was, I wanted to run a really, really good business, and I wanted to really give something back to the people that worked for me. And so I started to do research on what it meant to run a good company. And I ran across some things, and, to this day, we still use some of the core values and manifesto and things that we found. I talked to a bunch of different people and business owners that were more successful and kind of learned. And here, it went quick, and here we are still learning. I mean, it's not like we're, it's still learning. We're still trying to figure things out every single day.
Right. That's funny because my story is actually a little bit similar. I didn't teach, but I was in university.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the traditional route. I didn't know anything about business. All I thought was, to get rich, you just get a job, high paying job. I was aiming to be a lawyer, and then you save up, and then you retire, and then you get your pension, all that. But then some, instances happened where I needed to make money for myself, and I was forced to just figure life out. And I was forced to start the ghostwriting. I didn't even plan it. I was just thinking, I gotta just make money. And people on X were saying, oh, you gotta make money here. And I thought it would also be the same where, if I just publish my content out there and get some bunch of likes, people will just come in. And it never happened. I needed to actually go to people, tell them, I'm selling this, and are you interested? And get rejected multiple times.
Oh yeah.
And
keep going.
Yeah, and I got rejected multiple times until someone took a shot on me. But then when someone finally said yes, things clicked. And I was like, I can actually make money doing this. So that's everything fell in place, and I finally found my groove.
Yeah, sales are tough, and that's what I tell my staff. So my staff and I are doing some sales pushes right now for the first quarter, and some of them aren't used to doing sales, and getting no's. Although we want to try to get no's as quick as possible, because no's means you can move on. And so for the untrained salesperson, they send out some emails, they send out some tweets, like you said, and you're like, oh my gosh, people are going to do it. And then no one responds, or someone says, yeah, no, thanks. You're like, oh, it didn't work. And you give up. And, sales are tough, and you have to consistently go for those no's, because, it's always something that's on the top of my mind, is to continue to learn how to be better at sales, and to continue how to always have that as part of my daily ritual is something, sending an email, asking a client for a referral, doing some digital ads, making some more content, fine tuning our SEO. I mean, these are all things that kind of go into what you're doing for sales. But Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough, but like I said before, I mean, it was a hard lesson for me to learn. I mean, I always thought, well, we'll just run this company and people will just come and they'll want it to do work and pay us lots of money and we'll have a great culture and it'll be great. And, your culture is only as good as if you have money coming in the door.
Yeah, I can imagine like during that time, what did you do? Like, did you do door to door, or like how was your sales process back then?
Yeah, so a couple different things that we did. Like I said, we were doing some in-person networking, which I
Right.
absolutely hate. But anyway, we were doing some networking, which is important. We were also part of some different associations, the Manufacturers Association, the local chambers, and so we were able to attend events and do speaking events, and that really, really helped because speaking events and going to conferences for me was always a really good lead magnet because
Right.
I love to speak. Like I love to be in front of an audience. And, being a former teacher, public speaking is no problem. Like if I can speak to a bunch of yahoos like you guys, in front of a classroom, it's no problem to speak in front of adults, and, I can tell you countless times of me doing like a little free seminar at some conference about video or about branding or about, you know, um, mindset or whatever, digital marketing, almost every time from that, someone's reached back out to us and say, hey, I saw you at this conference. We'd like to have you come talk and see if you can help us with whatever. And so I love speaking at conferences. I think this is good too. I think podcasts, we just got our podcast back going again. I think this is a good tool because the nice thing about this is that it's basically free content for you
Yeah.
and for me. But also, now, even though you're here to learn about me, like, we always kind of go, okay, so you're doing ghostwriting. Okay, that's interesting. So down the road, if we ever need somebody, we're like, let's see what Nathaneal's doing, So I think, that was what we did and what worked. I think today, I really love this founder-led content. I just think that, putting out content consistently on your feeds, whether it's LinkedIn or X or whatever you're doing, I think is super important. And then the simple act of having some form of sales strategy or plan, because and to stick with it. And you can always change it if you don't feel like something's working. But like what we said in this first quarter is that we have a certain plan that we're going to do with five of us on our staff, and we're going to tweak things as we go, but we're not going to stop. And we're not going to stop. I don't care if we don't get one response. We're going to tweak it so that maybe we get a little better response rate, but we're not going to stop.
Right. So just sticking with like creating a sales strategy and then tweaking it and then just sticking with it no matter what.
Yeah, and I think the other piece too is as is you're trying to figure out, what your superpower is. Like what can you provide to your customer, and then stick with that, but then start thinking about who that customer is. And rather than marketing and advertising for what you do for them, you need to start looking for what their pains are, right? Because and that's something that a lot of people forget. Like I can't tell you how many, we were in a $200 million construction company out of Detroit a couple months ago that we're doing some work for. And on their website and their content, they continuously talk about what they do. We do this, we build buildings. And I was at a conference in Denver speaking to a bunch of builders about how do you attract talent to work in that industry. And I asked them, I go, how many people in here have a picture of a machine or a building on the front of your website? And everybody in there said, well, yeah, of course we do. I'm like, well, yeah, that's what you do, but it has nothing to do with who you are. And so I think what we need to consistently remind ourselves is they don't really care about you and I, they don't care that, that we do this and it's really good and whatever. They want to know, how are you going to help me solve this problem?
What's in it for me, right?
That's it. That's all. I mean, and that hasn't changed ever. I mean, all the technology and all the AI that you have, it doesn't really matter. All the different website builders, all that other bullshit that you have, it doesn't matter. And so it's never changed, right? And I think a lot of companies, what they run into is they don't know. We've been in so many different businesses, very successful businesses. None of them are on the brink of collapse. And they always say to me, this one thing is like, we're really good at what we do, but we're just not telling people the right story. And they're starting to see that in today's world, when you get a brand new, let's take construction, for example, you get a 70-year-old construction company that's 200 million, that's the best in the business. but their website brand and message is not great. And you get some new person that comes in and they spend all this money on brand message and marketing. People don't know the difference. I mean, they look at this brand new site and this brand and it's beautiful and they've got all these testimonials on there. So, I think that's that brand and message about, here's how I like to describe it is businesses and individuals should make a compelling ad so that when if I'm your perfect customer and I see your ad and I see it and I go, finally, I've been looking for somebody to do just this. That's how we buy all day long. Like that's how we buy. Like, oh, finally, here's this place, or finally, here's this restaurant, or all day long. And so that's the message, because how many are they seeing in any given day? And the minute that they search you and find you on Google, if you're on the top, great. But if you're on the top and you don't respond to them, they're going to the next one. So we got to do something to stand out, and it's got to be some sort of consistent process that we're going to follow through. So, but it hasn't changed. I mean, nothing has really changed. To me, it's as simple as figuring out what that finally message is.
Yeah. I also noticed, I had to hire a sales coach because I had zero knowledge about sales. And I noticed that when I hired my sales coach and I started working with him, I actually learned more about my business by selling it. Like I became better at the delivery process, like the onboarding, like everything about it. I became better because now I care more about the customer rather than what I can offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also too, what that does is, and they can tell. So that's why I like being really, really, niche is probably the wrong word, but really, really confident on what you have to give and what you're going to deliver, and confident that, if you say, I do this and it's going to work because of this, if you're really, really confident in yourself and really, really confident in your systems, then you're going to be confident in the sales process. There was a time there back 5-6 years ago where our web design process was it was a struggle. And it was not fun. And we had dropped the ball a couple times. And so when I was selling this, in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, you probably don't want to go with us. I'd never say that, right? I mean, I have said that before. Right? Like I had a customer that needed a bunch of things. And typically I'm like, yeah, we can do that, but we don't really. And I told him, I said, look, I would love to do this for you. You're probably going to be better off with someone else. When you need brand, web, or video, then we're your team. And she was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And they ended up coming back to us to do some video. So, but what I guess the point is when you're absolutely confident and laser like focused in what you deliver and the value that you bring, I think this is something that, and I still have to take sales training and coaching. Like I'm not an expert at it either, but when you really have something to value, you have to believe that. Like you have to believe that I have something that they need. Whether you're 22 or 50, for some reason we treat clients like they're above us or better than us, right? When the reality is we wouldn't be talking to them if they could do what we could do.
Yeah.
But for some reason, even I'm older, I'm doing sales to people that are a lot younger than I am sometimes. And, it's that belief in yourself and that belief in your business that you have value that they absolutely need. And that helps with your sales process because they can just tell that you're confident, that
you'll deliver on your promises.
Yeah. And it comes across like now when I sell over the last few years, but now I know, like if somebody hires us to do brand and messaging or a logo, or if they hire us to do a website, or if they hire us to do video or local SEO, like I am 100% confident that my team is going to deliver because I know, because I've seen it. And I can be there with confidence and say, hey, look, this is something that we do really well. And you're going to be really happy with the outcome. And that helps with the sales process.
So your book was titled The Lonely CEO, which is like a very intriguing title. I'm curious, like what inspired you to write it and what message did you want to like send out to CEOs, founders, and business owners?
It's mostly just because I'm a whiny little baby. That's mostly it. And I know this, but I think the truth is I got tired of seeing all these gurus and people that were just crushing it and killing it. Not that they're not. I mean, I think that they are, but my wife's a business owner too. And when she started 3 years ago, even though she had me to bounce ideas off, being an owner of a business, especially if you've got a staff, even if you don't, is a very lonely place, because the best way I can describe it is, if you're worried about something in the business, you can't tell your employees, right? And I've done that, and that's a big mistake, because they freak out and then they start talking. I love my employees, but then they're like, oh, he said, like, I'll say one thing, like, I think one time I said something like, I'm thinking about doing some reorganization or something and just kind of figuring this out. And they thought that meant everybody. So my chief of staff calls me and she's like, everybody thinks you're firing them. I'm like, Jesus, come on. So I've learned not to do that. But, if you're worried about the business, you can't really tell your employees. You can't really tell your clients or your customers. Sometimes you don't even want to tell your spouse because you don't want her to worry. Your friends don't get it because they think you're rich or stupid, because they're working a regular job.
Yeah.
And so you're just kind of alone at the top here. And even though I really love my employees that we have now, and I think they're amazing, at the end of the day, it's just a job for them. And so I think the other thing is that, consistently you're wondering if you're making the best decisions and if you're the right person to actually do it. And I've had those doubts, a lot. And I think a lot of business owners do. And I think there's so much pressure when you're at the top to make sure that everything is taken care of, that it's a tough spot to be. So really what I wanted to do is I wanted to tell the truth about business ownership. We see all these super, famous business owners that everything's great and whatever, but what about us? What about the single person company or the person of 11, who's just trying to make sure that his employees can get paid? And so one of the chapters in the books talks about real life of what it's like to be a business owner. And it ain't getting up at 4:00 and taking a cold bath and, meditating for an hour and getting a massage and working 4 hours a day. That's not it. I mean, I've got kids, I've got pets, I got to make sure the homework is done, the lunch is made, and then I got to get up and go deal with my clients. And so, not that I would change it for the world. I just want people to know that, hey, it's okay. And there's a way through it. Like, it can be done. But I think we all don't do a very good job. And somebody just said this to me recently, and I still sticks with me. He's like, how long have you been in business? I'm like, well, 14 years. And he's like, most businesses don't make it past 5.
Yeah.
And he said, past the ones that make it to 10, they're done too.
Yeah.
And he's like, have you made $1 million? And I said, yeah, pretty much every year and more. And he's like, 10% of businesses only 10% of businesses get to $1 million. I'm like, okay. He's like, have you been able to, over the last 14 years, pay for your health insurance for your family, buy multiple houses, pay yourself a salary, and, feed and clothe? I'm like, yeah, of course. He's like, that's success. He's like, you could shut it down tomorrow, and that would be more successful than 90% of the people out there today. And so I think we don't do that very well. One, because we're always trying to work a little bit harder. Entrepreneurs are a crazy bunch. We're always trying to do something a little bit more. And two, we just assume that everybody is like us or better than us, because that's all we see. That's all we see on X. That's all we read about. That's all we hang out with. We don't hang out with people that have failed at business. Hell, most of my friends are actually, the majority of them just work. They don't run a business. So they have no idea, So I really wanted to write something that was real and to tell people that, hey, listen, it's lonely. You don't have to be alone, and you're doing a really, really good job.
Yeah, beautiful. I did see that, like, in the introduction where you said it's like I think you were 8 years in, and then someone told you 10% of businesses, or 90% of businesses fail at this point, and then I'm 8 years, I'm past that.
Yeah,
But then 90% of businesses fail again at that point. Damn, am I going to make it?
Yeah. I remember that exact moment. I was listening to the E-Myth mowing the lawn, and it was 5 years into the business. And he said, most businesses fail with 90% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. And I was literally like this on my mower. And then the next line out of his mouth is then 90% of those fail. I was like, give me a break. Like, this can't be real. Like, who would do this? Why would we do this to ourselves?
Yeah, that's funny. I totally get it, because just last night I experienced that again, because like sometimes we also make up some trouble in our heads. Like, even if there's no problem, we're just constantly anxious. So what's the next step in the business? How are we continue to grow? Because churn happens, right? Or sometimes like there's so many unexpected things that happen in the business that you're always just looking for the next step, and you can't really tell, your partners or your employees. You can't go up to them and say, yo, like, we got a plan, because then they would get worried and they won't do their job well.
Yeah, and I think that unmistakable belief in yourself is, and with you and the young generation, like, you guys got nothing to lose. You should be failing, as much as you possibly can right now, and you probably won't. And failing is kind of even the wrong word, because all of us, I think, the worst case scenario, I think, for both of us, but let's just say you. So worst case scenario is you try this ghostwriting thing that you're doing, and that doesn't work. So you try something else, and maybe that doesn't work. So you try something else. And then you're like, I'm just going to go get a job. That's the worst. That's about as bad as it gets, Yeah. And so we're so worried that if it fails, and the same thing goes with me, 14 years in, if we had to shut down, all of our clients call us tomorrow and they say, nope, we're not going to pay you anymore. See you later. My staff all quits. That would suck. It wouldn't be fun to have that happen. But the worst thing is I'll start something different, or I'll get a job. And so knowing that, I think, is helpful, but then reminding ourselves consistently, with your growth. Like, look where I was. I couldn't get anybody to say yes. Finally, someone said yes. And now I've got 20 clients that I'm writing for, that's the kind of thing that I think we need to consistently remind ourselves of, because I try to tell my staff this too, because, we do have some clients sometimes that are hard to work with, but the majority of them love everything that we do. And we don't think about those. It's only that negative piece that seems to really resonate. So it's hard.
Yeah, it's the mind, like the mind always just sees the negative.
The worst. Yeah. Yeah. And I think this imposter syndrome too, that I talk a lot about is, my wife and I talk about a lot too. And, I at some points, most of the time I'm glad that I have it, because as long as I can remember, every job that I had from 13 or 14, like, I always wanted to be the best at what I did. I was a cook. I was a dishwasher. I was a cook. I was a bartender. I was a teacher. I always was trying to make sure that imposter didn't find out the truth, which is silly, right? And so it really drove me. I think it drove me to always be better. And pretty much everything that I've done has been pretty successful. And so the issue is when it starts to creep in and it starts to talk to you like you're not going to be able to get this done, or you're not going to be able to figure this out. And they're going to find, that's when the challenge comes up. But for the most part, it's always been there, but I think it's been a good thing.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Like, when you're surrounded by people and you're just thinking you don't belong here and they know it.
Yeah.
Like that voice, or like you don't know what you're doing and they can smell it. Yeah. Yeah.
And the truth is, they don't know what they're doing either. And no one does. And most people you talk to would admit that, and I think it's just this constant evolution. Are there things that I would have done differently now, knowing what I know now? Would I have changed? I think I would have. I think there are things that I definitely would have changed.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if we'd be where we are without making some of the mistakes that we did. It's maddening.
Yeah, the best thing about it is that you can always try again. Like what you said with the 9 to 5, like that was also the mindset I had. That's why I was willing to take, because I actually went in debt just to start the business, meaning like I invested on courses and like coaching and all that stuff, because I just thought if this doesn't work out and I go broke, well, I was broke anyway. Like I'm 20 and I was broke. If I became broke, then I'll just find a job and like have nothing to lose. So I mean, just do it.
That's what I speak to a lot of college students at Michigan State, and I say that almost exact line. I'm always like, you're already broke as shit anyway. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And, you know, I think if you go to college or if you don't, I don't know if it matters, but I always think running your own business or working for an entrepreneur is a really good skill set to have if you're going to do that and go work, you know, because not everybody wants to run a business. But I just think at the very least, what you've done to get where you are today, I mean, you're miles ahead of any college student your age. And that's the kind of people that we look for at our company, because at an agency our size, you know, we do have onboarding, but a lot of onboarding is like, here you go, good luck. And those that can do it, and we've got this girl, Kylie, that who I've known for a long time, and she's just your age. She just graduated. And she is amazing. I mean, she's really been able to just kind of figure it out. And a lot of it is, she asks for help here and there when she can, but a lot of it, she's not afraid to make mistakes and just give it a shot. And most of the time it's nothing like, we're not doing surgery here. We're doing marketing. It's like, you're not going to kill somebody, you know, with a bad tweet, you're not going to kill someone.
Yeah, that's what I try to say to my writers as well. It's just like most of the things that we're doing is reversible. We can always delete a tweet. Like if you publish a bad tweet, just delete it. I think most of the time it's reversible, you know? And so when I'm not sure if you've read the Jeff Bezos book, like the letter to shareholders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, where he says like there's two types of decisions, type 1 and type 2. And if it's just type 1, like it's just experiment. It's way better to fail and iterate than to not do anything at all.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is I think we get stuck in this, and I'm a creative guy, so I hate process. I hate standard operating procedures bullshit. I hate forms. I hate all this stuff. But like my staff's like, we gotta have this, man. I'm like, fine. But I consistently remind them, like, that's fine. We have this process and I think it's great. But I don't want it to be paralyzing us, you know, and sometimes we just got to do it and try it. And that's what I told them with the sales thing is we're just going to start and we're going to each get, 100 to 500 contacts, whatever the number was. And we're just going to go. And we're not going to worry about what happens when they say yes. We're not going to worry about when they say no. We're just going to do this process and we're going to stick to it and we'll figure things out along the way. And a lot of them were okay with it, but some of them were like, yeah, but what about, I'm like, no, there is none of that. So that's where we are right now. And it's week 3 into the new year.
So you're talking about your team. If I'm not mistaken, you have a team of 20 or have you increased now?
Yeah, ish. So right now we have 12 full-time employees that are on staff. And then we have about 6 contractors that work for us. And then we have a couple interns. So we always just say it's around.
Gotcha. I'm curious, like how are you able to scale or maintain that 7-figure mark with like a lean team? Because most of the time people think you need to go to 40, 50 just to hit that million mark.
Yeah, I honestly, and hopefully no one's listening to this that's on my staff, but I think we could do it. I think we could do it with less. And that's one of the things I think I would have done a little bit differently is I think there's ways that we could really focus on, and we've actually done this. So we did have a full team of about 20 employees that were W-2 employees, and we got down to 12 because there's some things that we were finding that if we continued to do in-house, we couldn't scale. Because in particular web design. So we can come up with the content and the process and the design, but then building some of these websites that are, 50, 100 pages, 200 pages would take a long time to do. And so my web designer, she was getting backed up because her job was not only to build the new sites, but then to maintain the 150 to 200 websites that we already have, and to also be an employee that we needed stuff internally for. And she's great, but she was finally came to me. She said, Bri, like, we've got to do something because I'm gonna start. I already have. I'm gonna start dropping the ball, and I'm gonna get burnt out. And so what we did is we ended up taking away the large website builds and then found a company to help us do that. And it was one of the best things we ever did. So what I think we should be spending our energy on is the client relationship, and then the big picture ideas for the client, the brand, the message, the plan, the marketing plan. All the labor stuff, the labor that we can get rid of it. Now, obviously, we need to be our video editors and shooters, and we need to write scripts. And I want to keep content in house, and I want to keep logos and designs in house. But some of the things we just don't need to hire someone to do. We just find there's companies that are much better and faster.
Agencies, right?
Yeah. And so that was one of the things that we're always looking for. And we ask ourselves, do we need to do it internally? Can we find someone that can do it as well as, if not better than us, cheaper and faster?
That's a great idea. Because I do know some companies who do that as well, where they just focus on sales and customer experience. So like more of the interaction with the client, and then the fulfillment, they just look for like another agency that would do it way faster, way better, maintain it, right?
Yeah, we went from being able to do about, 3 or 4 large website projects a month to being able to do 10. And it didn't stress anybody out. And it actually, I think it actually improved our web. Yeah, it did for sure. And so yeah, that's the direction that we're always going to go. I want to be that connection to the customer, and I want to have that big idea, and I want my team to do that as well. I don't want them to be stressed out because they've got 6 websites to build.
Right. I know that yeah, go ahead.
I want them to be thinking about better ways that we can build them.
Right. So more of like the strategy, more of like was this working on the business rather than in it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I'm curious, like you mentioned earlier, you have a manifesto, like you have a culture that you build. Would you mind sharing like the culture? Because I would like to learn from that as well as I grow.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the story. I like telling stories. So that's that cheesy teacher of me, right? So you probably had some just like it. But so back when I started, when it wasn't going well, I was like, I don't know if I know what the hell to run a business, but I knew in my mind what I wanted is I wanted a business that not only did great work, but really did a good job of supporting its people, that had a great core value sense, that had a great culture. And so I started to Google search back in the day, right? And was like, what makes a good, I can't remember what my search queries were, right? And I ran across this company called Centro, and they're called Basis now, but on their website was this thing called a manifesto. And it talked about how we need to be as leaders and how the people need to be. And it didn't talk about what they did. It didn't talk about, they were a media buying company that had 500 employees, but it didn't talk about what they did. It talked about, being a good person, always finding the right solution, improving the culture, lead by example. And so I emailed them. I said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I go, can I steal it? And she was like, she got back to me and she's like, absolutely. And she's like, our CEO loves it. He wants everybody to use this. And I was like, well, is there any way I could talk to him? And thinking there's no way that this guy would ever, and sure enough, she's like, yep, let me set something up. And we had a call set for a couple of weeks later, and guy calls me. He's like, hey man, it's Sean. I'm flying out of London right now. I'm like, oh, this guy's a big deal, and he was just a dude, man. And he was like, yeah, and talked to me forever. And I said, I'm just this, single person business, and this is what I'm trying to do. And he's like, man, stick with it. And he's like, keep telling people what you're trying to build. They're going to think you're crazy because you're just this one person in this little shitty office, but keep telling them. And then I was like, well, it's probably because you were in Chicago and, you built this media empire that you're successful. And he's like, no, he's like, if we would have made shoes, we would have been the best shoe company in the world if we stuck to this manifesto. And from there, that manifesto we still use today. And that manifesto then gave us our 5 core values that we really stress and use for everything that we do. And so, we wanted to create something where we could improve the lives of the people that work there. And so we think everyone should have some form of core values. And a lot of core values end up talking about what you do and like great customer service. And I'm like, that's not a core value. great customer service is not a core value. It's a byproduct of having, a good staff that's happy of what, happy at work. And so our core values are leadership. We think everyone in our company is a leader, and a good leader, and I used to tell this to my youth football kids, is a good leader makes everyone around him or her better than they are. Everyone we come in contact with should have a better day. So I really believe that our job is to improve the lives of people that end up meeting us. Hard work and grit, and we're not afraid of working hard. We live to create, because everything that we do, our being is being creative. And then lastly, every problem has a solution. So no matter, I call that one the no bitching rule is, and you can complain. It's just, I hate when people complain, and don't do anything about it. Like, I don't care if you bitch and complain, but the next thing after you're done, it can take a half hour. It can take, I don't care how long it is. But after you're done, I want you to say one or two things. I want you to say, but here's what I'm going to try next. Or I need some help. Because the people that don't meet those core values are no longer at our company. And it's a way for us to kind of gauge and rate and review employees. So it's basically the lifeblood of our entire organization.
It seems like similar to how customers have their own like customer experience, customer journey, you also have like an employee journey, something like that.
Yeah, I think, we've had employees come and go, and we've had employees that, the best story I can tell you is Cassidy. Cassidy came to us 5-6 years ago as a referral from a friend of my wife's. And she's like, hey, would you talk to her sister, Cassidy? She just wants to kind of see what direction she should be going in life and what she should do next. And she was working in, I don't know, she was working at the university, not in marketing, I think public policy or something. And I met her, and I was just like, man, she was awesome. And I could just tell there was something about her. And she came in just to talk to me to see kind of what was out there. And I said, well, why don't you just work here? And from there, she became our COO and helped me run the company. And, 6-7 years later, she came to me and she's like, hey, man. And I'm like, oh, you know what that means? And I was like, what? And she's like, listen, I applied for my dream job and I never thought I would get it. And I got it. So Cassidy got this great job. She lives in Detroit, but she got a great job working for a PR company in San Francisco, but staying remote, and doubled her salary. And for me, that's a success. Like, I would never be able to pay her that much in our small market. And because she came and worked for us, and it wasn't because I'm this great, wonderful leader or anything. It was because she had the experience of working for us, and she was great at her job. She now has a lifelong career in marketing. And so, I think in today's world too, like, it seems dark and it seems like impossible sometimes of things that are going on in the world and in our country and every country. And, I think if we can all just, try to improve the lives of other people by simply, just stupid little stuff like, you'd be surprised walking around the grocery store and no one looks you in the eyes or smiles anymore. It's just, that's something my dad taught me, that I've taught my kids. And now it's part of our company, is that I think we can improve the lives of our community and the people that immediately surround us, and it makes a better world.
That's great. That's really
it has nothing to do with marketing or nothing. It's just like, that's the opportunity.
Like humans.
Yeah, that's the opportunity we have as companies. We can do this. Like, I don't have to ask permission to do this.
Yeah.
So, and it's, it's a little bit of my teacher background that comes out too.
I'm curious though, like, because sometimes I do that. So where I smile at people and they don't smile at me back, it's quite awkward. And it kind of goes back to what you said, like the lonely CEO, where sometimes it feels alone when you're just the one trying to bring positivity. I'm curious, like, do you have any way to like find support or like find that inner strength, I guess, to carry on despite like people not smiling at you having problems, all that?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Sometimes I don't want to get out of bed. No, but no, I think surround yourself with people. I think doing a lot of reading has really, really helped me. And, just doing, whether it's for fun or for work, but always consistently reading. I love books. Journaling has really helped. Meditation has really, really helped. And then find somebody, a couple things, get a coach, get someone that is in your corner, it doesn't have to be related to your field. Get some sort of business coach, and then get in some sort of mentor group of other like-minded people. Just because what you're going to find is it's like, as soon as you get in one and you start to hear people say the same things that you're thinking, you're like, oh, that's weird. I thought I was the only one.
Yeah.
And I think those are the things. And then, it's like you're a marathon runner. It's like you're an extreme athlete. And so we, as business owners, mentally and physically have to stay healthy. We have to get sleep. We have to eat right. We have to exercise, meditate, find something spiritually that you can point to, whether it's, God or a higher power or whatever it is, Mother Nature. You have to be running like a fine-tuned machine, because it's a marathon. And those are the things that I've tried to consistently do. And I'm not perfect. I mean, there's times when I just don't want to do it anymore. And you keep going.
Gotcha. That advice, the first part, especially like where you kind of move, I think, I forgot who's the guy who said this, but basically when you surround yourself with crazy people, you're not so crazy anymore.
Yeah, we're all crazy.
Yeah. Especially the crazy people who's your type of crazy. Like
Yeah, we think we're this unique little thing that has all these problems, and we're not. I mean, surround yourself with those people that are in that same boat, and you're going to find, even the most successful people that I know that are running businesses still have this sort of doubt and wonder. And so you're not alone. I mean, you're definitely not alone.
So one thing that I want to ask you, as someone who's experienced, like way more experienced than I am, like what was the biggest challenge that you faced during your career, and like how can people avoid that or face it like more effectively, I guess?
Yeah, I think it goes back to really two things. I think number one, really get a clear picture on what you are and what you do and who you do it for. Like, because we started and we're like, we do everything and we do it for everyone. And we're a little more niche now, not as much as I'd like to be. So I think get really clear on the solution and the problem that you solve. Because if you do that and get that really down and just repeat that process, you're going to be a lot better off. And then consistently train yourself and think about sales all the time. I mean, I know it sounds easy, but I'm telling you, that's all that matters. You can build all this culture bullshit later. Like, you always need to either find someone to help you consistently do that, and consistently spread your message. Because as soon as you don't, we've had customers that have come to us that the past agency didn't do SEO well, or AdWords got dropped for a couple weeks and they lost thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's just like, those two things for me is the rest of the stuff you can figure out. If you can figure out what you do and who you do it for and how you're going to tell people that so they continuously want to work with you, you're going to be in really good shape. The rest of the stuff you'll figure out. You'll figure out how to do the work. You'll figure out how to, whatever, that stuff you can figure that shit out, and you can hire people to help you. But the minute you don't have money coming in the door is when it's like gut check time, and you're like, uh-oh, what are you gonna now what?
Yeah, it's like cash flow, right?
Yeah,
Always.
that's it. Always. That's the number one thing. Every business owner I talk to, it's the ups and downs that is the only stressful thing. I can deal with clients, I can deal with employees, none of that. That's nothing. It's that cash flow, consistent money coming in the door is always a challenge.
Well, it was amazing talking to you, Brian. Is there anything that you want to announce, anything that you're launching soon? I know you mentioned, well, your book is out, and you mentioned that you're going to launch your course soon.
Yeah, the book is out, and I'm always willing to talk to anybody. If you guys just want to talk to see, I'm happy to take a look at stuff. But yeah, so we have a Scale with Confidence that we're going to be launching next week. And so really everything that we talked about today is in a 5-week course that I'm going to do. It's both an online course and in person, or not in person, but over Zoom. And it's called Scale with Confidence. And it's really just the things that we talked about today, how to prepare yourself to fight this battle, how to be confident, sales, SEO, AI tools, messaging, really. So to take you through that 5-week course to really have you leave successful. And so it's based a lot on my 20, 30 years of experience. And it's what I love to do. That's what I'm super passionate about.
teaching.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm going to go back to. I mean, that's something I've always loved and I'm good at it. So
Awesome. And where can people find you?
yeah. So bryantown.io, or just go to Michigan Creative. You'll find us.
Awesome. Well, it was nice connecting with you, Brian. Great conversation. I learned a lot, especially as a young entrepreneur, and I'll see you around on X.
All right, man. I'll see you around. Thanks. I appreciate you.